Commercial. Where was I? Commercial was my last word. Oh, and industrial real estate, land brokerage, real estate appraisal, real estate counseling, syndication, auction, and international real estate. These are different types of real estate. They require different competences. Just because you sell residential real estate doesn't mean you could sell any one of these or have the knowledge to. Doesn't mean you don't, because you could do your homework and all that, but it doesn't mean that you do just because you know how to sell one kind. Selling vacant land is very different than selling single family homes. And selling commercial is way different than selling single family homes. So it's all, you have to know different things. And it's very clear that you must conform to the standards of practice that are expected within each discipline. Okay. Realtors shall not undertake to provide specialized professional services concerning a type of property or service that is outside their field of competence unless they engage the assistance of one who is competent on such types of property or service, or unless the facts are fully disclosed to the client. So obviously, if you tell your client, gosh, I've never sold a piece of vacant land before, and they say, well, I don't care, I just want you to sell it, I believe in you. That's okay. Okay, any persons engaged to provide assistance shall be so identified to the client, and their contribution to the assignment should be set forth. So you are selling your first piece of, or you're doing your first, let's pick one of these things. We don't do management. So let's just say you're selling, you're doing a real estate appraisal. Somebody asked you to appraise a piece of property for them. And you've never really done an appraisal before, so you've not done it before, and so you go and you seek the help of someone who's an appraiser, and they help you with it. And so you need to tell your client, I had help from so and so who's a licensed appraiser for 20 years or whatever. Okay, when realtors prepare, and it seems like all that comes out of this particular code of ethics, as far as the bottom part and the examples, are all about appraisals. But we're going to talk about some other stuff too. When realtors prepare opinions of real property value or price, they must be knowledgeable about the type of property being valued. So if someone asks you to value a piece of vacant land for them and you've never valued a piece of vacant land, you know, I know everyone knows how to value a piece of property by looking at this and looking at that, but you might want to talk to a vacant land specialist and say, hey, is there anything else I should be looking at than these 5 things I already know to look at? You know, are you looking at zoning? Are you looking at, you know, water? Is there water there? Depending on where the vacant land is. Okay. Have access to information and resources necessary to formulate an opinion. So they're expecting you to use resources, right? Not just to do it all by yourself. Be familiar with the area where the subject property is located. So now you've been asked to, you know, you sell single family homes and someone's asked you to value their single family home, but you sell in Chino Hills and they're asking you to value a piece of property in Palmdale. So, you know, do you know the area enough to do that? Are you familiar? So these are things that you are supposed to know. Unless you lack of any of these is disclosed to the party ahead of time. So yes, I have never ever valued a piece of property in Palmdale or in that general area, but I think I can. I think it's the same. I don't think it matters. So, you know, if you believe in me, I'll do it. And that's okay, right? You could be incompetent, but as long as your client knows that you've never done it before and that you're not sure about it, it's okay. When an opinion or value or price is prepared other than in pursuit of a listing or to assist a potential purchaser in formulating a purchase offer, the opinion shall include the following unless the party requesting the opinion requires a specific type of report. So now someone's asked you to give an opinion and it's not a buyer purchasing a property. Identification of the property, the date prepared, define the value or price, limiting conditions. If there's any conditions that you took into account, any present or contemplated interest, including the possibility of representing the seller, landlord, or buyer tenant. So if you have you have asked to review the property, to appraise the property, and you have a contemplated interest because you already know you have a buyer interested in it, you would have to disclose that. Okay, so basis for the opinion, what's your basis? If the opinion is not an appraisal, then you have to say this wasn't an appraisal, it was just a whatever. Disclosure of whether and when a physical inspection of the property's exterior was conducted. Disclosure of whether and when a physical inspection of the interior was conducted. Disclosure of whether the realtor has any conflicts of interest, which is what we saw before, if they could be involved. So in order to do a price opinion or a sorry, my mind just went blank. This is what you need to do. Okay. The obligations of the Code of Ethics in respect of real property estate disciplines other than appraisal. Okay, so now we're not talking about appraisal anymore. Everything but appraisal shall be interpreted and applied in accordance with the standards of competence and practice which clients and the public reasonably require to protect their rights and interests, considering the complexity of the transaction, the availability of expert assistance, and where the realtor is an agent or subagent, the obligations of a fiduciary duty. So what does that say? So we're going to interpret them under all of this. You have a fiduciary duty. When if a client comes to you and says, hey, I don't think you knew what you were doing when you agreed to list my vacant land. I don't think you know what you were doing. You've messed up a bunch of things. And so this is what they're going to look at. Did you know enough to protect the rights and interests, considering how complex it could, and again, it's transaction could be simple and it could be complex. The availability of expert assistance, do you live in Timbuktu where there's nobody to ask, or in a city that no one else services but you, so there's no one else to talk to, or are there plenty of people around? And if the realtor is an agent or subagent, the fiduciary duty that they owe for doing this. So it's you need to seek help, but you need to understand what you have to know. Okay, 11.3, when realtors provide consultative services to clients which involve advice or counsel for a fee, okay, not a commission. We have one where the brother and sister selling their property, the brother hates us, the sister won't use anyone else. And so we're not involved. They're selling it by themselves with no agent, but we are getting a consulting fee. So we have an agreement for a consulting fee. So if you're doing that, again, you have to know what you're doing, okay? The competency required by Article 11 relates to services contracted for between realtors and their clients or customers, the duties expressly imposed by the Code of Ethics, and the duties imposed by law or regulation. So when they're talking about being competent and knowing this stuff, they're talking about expressly imposed by the Code of Ethics and by law or regulation. All of those things you should be aware of. Okay, now we got it. Now let's see if we can interpret it. Okay. Appraiser's competence for assignment. A sold the light industrial property to B, a laundry operator. Several months later, buyer B engaged realtor A's services, so they went back to their old agent, to appraise the property and to supply an appraisal report for use in possible merger with another laundry. Realtor A carried out this appraisal assignment and submitted his report. Buyer B, who I guess now is client as well, was dissatisfied with the report, feeling that the valuation in comparison with the market price that he had paid was excessively low. Okay. Client B then engaged an appraiser specializing in industrial property, and after receiving the second appraisal report, filed a complaint with the Board of Realtors, charging Realtor A with incompetent and unprofessional services as an appraiser. At the hearing, questioning established that Realtor A could cite no other industrial property appraisal he had made, and that his appraisal experience had been limited exclusively to residential property. The hearing also established that when the client proposed the appraisal, Realtor A had readily accepted the assignment and that he had at no time disclosed the extent and limitations of his appraisal experience. Okay, so, check, check, check. You did everything wrong. Okay, realtor's obligation to disclose. Okay, new one, client A needed to sell a property. She approached realtor B to list the property. They agreed on the terms and listing, and the property was listed. An offer was made and accepted by client A. After the prospective purchaser completed the loan app, realtor B was contacted to appraise the property. Okay, she approached realtor B to list. Okay, that's okay. So they're asking the listing agent to appraise the property. Does that make sense? When the lender was preparing the closing statement, the lender became aware that the listing broker was also the appraiser and filed a complaint with the Board of Realtors alleging that realtor B had failed to disclose in the appraisal that he had an interest in the property, specifically seeing that the sale closed. The complaint was referred by the grievance committee to the panel for the professional standards. At the hearing, realtor B protested that the lender was misreading Article 11 as interpreted by Standard of Practice 11.1, claiming that disclosure of whether the realtor has any conflicts of interest referred only to an ownership interest. Huh? Realtors, you think you can get off that easy? Realtor B concluded that the listing commission had been earned when a ready, willing, and able purchaser contracted to purchase the property, and that the appraisal process was separate and distinct from the brokerage process. Does anyone believe that? I don't even know how that guy could choke out that argument that I have no interest in the property. Realtor B was found in violation, of course, because that's just they're not two things. Okay. Okay. Next one. Owner A was considering refinancing a property. Client B, a lender, ordered an appraisal from. Okay, maybe if I take it out, I won't have to hear anything. Owner A was considering refinancing a property. Client B, a lender, ordered an appraisal from realtor C. The appraisal report was completed, and later owner A decided to sell the property instead of refinancing it. Owner A contacted realtor C, who listed the property. An offer was made and accepted by owner A. At the loan application, the prospective purchaser told the lender, client B, that I guess the third time in a row that person called. When the lender became aware that the listing broker was also the appraiser, the lender filed a complaint. You can't do that. Okay, present or contemplated interest. Of course, when he did the appraisal, maybe he didn't know he had a present or contemplated interest. The complaint went to hearing. At the hearing, a written statement from owner A contained all the facts above was entered into evidence. Realtor C stated that the appraisal had been completed in accordance with Standard of Practice 11.1, and that it was only after owner A decided to sell rather than refinance that there was any discussion about Realtor C representing the owner. True, right? Realtor C stated that the owner had been appreciative of the time that she had spent discussing the subject's neighborhood and existing market conditions, and that the owner had decided that he wanted someone really knowledgeable to represent him in the sale of the property. Who better than the person who appraised it properly? Because Realtor C's disclosures regarding present and contemplated interests were true at the time they were made in connection with the appraisal, the hearing panel concluded that they weren't in violation. Okay, so he did the appraisal. He didn't know he was going to have an interest. There was nothing to discuss. Okay, that was all. They don't have I don't think they had very good current issues, but these are our issues. Okay, your client wants to sell vacant land to build a warehouse. So you got a call from someone and you've sold them residential property before, and they want to buy. Your client wants to buy. Sorry, we've never sold. Oh, vacant land. Oh, that was kind of crazy. Forget it. Take that part out. Wants to sell vacant land. Period. You have never sold vacant land before, but you have sold other commercial properties. You have not mentioned to the client that you never sold vacant land. Your broker allows you to sell vacant land. Is it okay? What do you think? Do you think you need to disclose to the buyer or to the seller that you've not sold a piece of vacant land before, or that you need to associate in someone who has sold vacant land before, maybe do one transaction with someone who knows more than you, and then you'll learn from that person, hopefully, and then you'll be able to do it yourself the second time. But truly, you don't want to be going and selling a piece of vacant land if you've never done it before and you don't know all the ins. Vacant land has its own set of issues. So again, but that's the same thing with everything, right? It's the same thing with commercial. If you've never done a commercial sale, you probably don't want to jump in and do one all by yourself. Because especially if the other agent on the other side is a commercial agent, because I used to sit next to one, and he used to complain about agents who didn't know anything and who were doing commercial. So, and it was true, and I think he ran all over them. So if you're gonna do commercial, the first time you do a commercial deal, associate in someone who's done commercial before. Use one of, we have a commercial team here, use one of them to help you. And then the next time, if you feel comfortable, it'll be different. Okay, but that's one of the, we've had a big lawsuit over selling vacant land. And so I know for those of you who have been around for a long time, that was one of Neil's pet peeves, is vacant land, because he had a big lawsuit over it once. But and so we just ask people to work with someone else for one transaction and see how it goes, what things that have to be considered. Okay, what about a lease? What if you've never done a lease before? And now you don't do leases, but now you sold the property and the owner wants you to lease it out for him, and you know you don't want to give it to someone else, so you want to do a lease, but you don't know anything about leases really. I mean, you know, anyone can read the lease. Can you do a lease by yourself if you've not ever done one before? So the answer is yes, of course you can, but you need to get some help. Send prepare the lease agreement or the whatever documents you need, send them to me, send them to Jan to look at, send them to Terry to look at. You know, you can get help for something if you're not sure. Gee, I've never done a lease before. Can you look and make sure I filled this out correctly? And then, you know, I can say, well, that's really nice, but if you notice you forgot to check that box on the rent of, I don't know, just cause eviction and rent control form. And that's a big deal. That would be huge if you forgot it. So if you're not sure, send it to someone who looks at documents all day. Again, that you could send it to Jen, you could send it to Terry, you could send it to me.
Cindy's so much nicer than I am. I'd have just said no.
No. Don't call me and ask me to help you.
I've never done a lease before. Can I do it? Yeah. No.
Don't ask me for help with your vacant land or with your, or, you know, anything else like that, or your commercial property. That I can't do.
That's one of the real advantages of being involved with a company like we're involved with. And that is that between the different offices and the different people, there is pretty much always somebody that can walk you through almost anything that you have happening.
And that's what you can do. You can reach out to people. Yeah, question. I see a question.
Yes, this is Vianney. I have actually a potential client who's interested in a large piece of land, possibly having basically property in there or multi-units that could be created eventually, as well as it's a must to have a water wheel. And there, I know some of the zip codes, I have even checked with the city as well as the water wheel drillers. I'm kind of trying to play it safe, but still connect with the people. Do you have any recommendation given some of this stuff you're also sharing?
A recommendation for?
Where to be protective and not share too much information, but share enough to kind of get them engaged and sell, even though they're looking really specific stuff and some of those are more coding and stuff. I'm trying to not to be liable for everything, but still get them the info.
Yeah. Let's talk and specifically. Let's talk specifics later.
Later? Okay.
Yeah, because I need to know more specifically. Yeah. Okay, let's do this, because if you recall that the statute also included services. So you represent a buyer on a property with a septic tank and you have no knowledge of anything regarding septic tanks. Never sold the property on a septic tank before, never lived on one, never had a problem or knew anybody with a problem. So you don't know anything about septic tanks. And I know this one because we have a claim. Because we had an agent who didn't know anything about septic tanks. We represented the buyer. We didn't ask for the seller. The seller's agent told our buyer's agent that they had recently had the septic done and he would get her the report. only we never got it, never asked for them to do any pumping because he said he had a report. We didn't ask. And anyway, to make a very long story short, they didn't give us the report till after escrow. The report was terrible. The whole thing exploded when we bought the property. It took out the electricity, it took out the whole septic tank, and it's a mess. And so it's a problem. And she didn't know anything. Instead of reaching out to someone and saying, hey, by the way, I've never sold a property with a septic tank on it. What do I need to know? And I would say you need to know that you have to ask the seller for this, this, and this. And she didn't do that. Okay, she just nothing. We had nothing. We asked for nothing from the seller, and because there were all these oral promises of a report. Well, when we finally called the septic person out, guess what? It was the same person that did the report for them, and told them that they told the seller that everything was wrong with it, that it was not going to last, that it was the seller knew it all, and he just didn't tell the buyer. I mean, you can't help that, but you can protect yourself by making sure that you have the report before the close of escrow, or that you ask anyway in the, whatever that form is, the W, something with a W and a PI. I think there's another letter. Is it just the WPI?
SWPI.
SWPI. I thought there were 4. Yeah, so if you have that, we need that document. We need you to ask for the seller to give you a report that it was inspected and that it's fine, or a pump and dump, or whatever they do. I also don't know much about septic tanks other than what happens when we get in trouble with them. So again, if you have something like that, something odd on this property that you haven't seen before, another big lawsuit we had, or it wasn't big, but another lawsuit we had was there was a PACE lien on the what you call it, the title report. The agent didn't really understand a PACE lien. And so they didn't understand that it goes with the property. It does not get paid off at the close of escrow. It goes on the property tax. And if you buy a property with a PACE lien, you're going to be getting that bill on your property tax. And, of course, we closed and we didn't disclose. We didn't do anything with the PACE lien because we assumed it was going to get paid off.
What is it called? A PACE lien?
There's 2 of them. There's the PACE and there's another one too.
Hero.
The Hero.
Oh, Hero. Oh.
And the PACE loans. They're both of those go on your property tax. So they go with the property. They don't get paid off at the close of escrow. They just continue to be paid with your property tax until they're paid off. So if you're a buyer and you didn't know about that, or you didn't understand that you were buying a property with this lien on it, then that could be a problem. And of course it was once, and that was one of the few that our insurance company just paid right up front. No questions
Cindy,
asked.
Can't we convince our sellers to pay off those loans?
Yeah, you can do whatever you want, but you have to deal with the loan. You can't just ignore it.
Yeah.
If you ignore it, it goes to the buyer. So yeah, if you're the buyer, you might, and you have looked at a title report, you might want to ask for the PACE loan or the Hero loan to be paid off at the close of escrow. But if you're the seller and the buyer didn't ask because they maybe didn't see the title report yet, then you still need to deal with it. You either need to say buyer to take over the lien or that I'll pay it off at the close of escrow. You
Okay.
can't just ignore it, or the buyer gets it with no disclosure.
Cindy, shouldn't those 2 loans be also disclosed at the on the MLS in the agent's remarks? Because like,
If you're going to expect someone to take them over, you might, because that might be something that you might want to say. If you're going to pay them off, you don't have to disclose.
you don't have to. Okay.
Right.
All right. Thanks.
Because nobody cares, right?
Yeah.
But I'm sure there are other things. Those were the ones that I could think of from lawsuits we've had. But there are other things that happen during a transaction that you've never seen before. It just is the nature of the business. And so when you find something that you've never seen before, I know a lot of you are really good. You'll research it, you'll figure it, you'll look, but reach out and say, hey, have you ever seen, you guys see what you do and the people you talk to, but I see lots of what lots of people do. So, you just reach out and I could say, no, I've never heard that problem. Maybe you should ask Terry, or, whatever. But I'm just telling you that competence is part of the code of ethics. It's part of our E&O. It's part of everything. And so if you don't feel you know something, you need to reach out to someone who could help you. Whether it be escrow, sometimes, you know, on the PACE lien or you could just call escrow and say, what the heck is this? Is this getting paid off? And escrow will explain it to you. But it could be, you know, could be them, could be me, could be Terry, could be whoever you want to call. Could be Randy. I don't know if he knows about PACE loans, but if he does, I assume he does because he's a lender. Call whoever you want, but make sure you ask. Make sure you reach out. Same thing with property types. You don't have to say no. You just need to reach out and get help. And so that you're giving competent service. And that, my friends, is Article 11. Oh, does anyone have any questions? Oh, okay. Okay, then I know it says I go till 4:15, but I never do. It's just till 4. Anyway, if no one has any questions, then I'm going to go back to moving licenses. I'm here all week. Robert's here. Terry's here. We're here to answer your questions. We're here to help you. We're here to make you competent.
Robert says he's not here to answer questions. He might be here. He just doesn't want to answer questions.
Yeah. Robert's here physically, but mentally is hit or miss.
And why should today be any different than any other day?
I know. Thank you.
Okay.
Nobody said this can't be fun.
No, it has to be fun.
That's it. Good job. Good job.
It is
All
fun.
right.
And you know why it's fun? Because we have really good agents.
We do have good agents. I agree. I
Ken.
concur. All right. Good job, everyone.
¿Quién está con Frank?
See?
Cindy, when is a good time to call you?
I can't see.
Also hit and miss, but anytime.
Sunday after 8 p.m.
Yeah. Just I don't even care about that as much as I care about Saturday and Sunday before like 10 a.m.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, a sleeper in.